So I'm going to introduce you now to this framework that I use a lot, and it's really the center of the Be Less Zombie book. So here we have a pentagon, and at the heart of it, we've got strategy, innovation strategy, and the dimensions of that we've already covered. And around the edge, we have these 5 areas. So the first is process. Do we have a clearly understood process that facilitates problem solving at speed and scale? Generally, the answer is no in many organizations that I work inside. And that's a problem because the number of employees that I meet who say to me, even if I had an idea, I wouldn't know where to take it. And my manager doesn't know either. So what do I do next? And it's one of the benefits of having a well understood innovation process around the organization so that people know where to go next and they understand what a good idea looks like, what a relevant idea looks like. We'll talk more about that later. But the first point is process. Do we have a process that is easily understood and can scale? The second is, well, in the context of that process, what capabilities are we going to need so that we can achieve the outcomes that we need? And working in innovation is not the same as working in the day-to-day business. We really need to recognize that. And it does require some different skills, all of which can be taught. None of it is rocket science, but it tends not to show up in most learning and development. So there's a deliberate choice that needs to happen there. Next is resourcing. So what's the most effective way to resource innovation in this area? It's not going to be the same everywhere. It's going to be different levels of emphasis that we need in different types of innovation, and we'll come on to that. Next, culture. This is huge. We often expect the culture of the status quo to be the culture that is going to deliver breakthrough ideas. It's really not. Even if you just look at the dimension of risk, the status quo does not like risk. It will not tolerate risk, nor should it, because it needs to make the money. It needs a culture of its own, an environment of its own where this stuff can show up. And there's different ways you can look at that. And I recommend that you have a look at Be Less Zombie to see some more ideas on how that can show up. And finally, what's the leadership? What leadership behaviors will create an environment where the right profile of ideas can emerge and develop? So it often begins and ends with leadership. That's not to say you can't make progress with innovation without the support of leaders, and I'm going to show you some tools on how you can do this stuff regardless of whether leaders are engaged. But ideally, someone senior somewhere, ideally the CEO, is sponsoring a deliberate push for innovation and trying to pull all of these sections together. Okay, so to summarize, we've got 3 levels of innovation, and we've got 5 dimensions that we need to consider against each. Now, if you're looking at this thinking, oh my goodness, there's 15 combinations of things I need to be thinking about here, don't allow that to scare you off. You don't have to start there. If you want to, start simply and say, right, okay, day-to-day employees, we're going to be working on the incremental stuff. It's going to be the enhanced stuff. And we're going to run some projects here and there in particular environments with particular people where we will start to try and do some more adventurous explore innovation. Just start somewhere and learn your way forward. Make the choice to learn your way forward, knowing that what you do first will probably not be quite right, but you will get to a state where you design an innovation culture and an innovation environment that's right for you. And please don't fall into the mistake of trying to be a Google, trying to be an Apple. They are different companies. You need to define what's right for you, and that is a learning journey. If you do that, you will have done more than most companies who don't usually go that extra mile. They just try and bring in copy and paste processes and things from other organizations. This is a learning journey. It's an innovation of your organization in its own right. And it's exciting to pursue because you come up with something that is original, that can only work inside your context, and then becomes a source of competitive advantage. So think about that when you're thinking about designing innovation strategy. It is of strategic importance. So one more thing I want to introduce, and that is, in the context of strategy,